We turn to you this morning and this afternoon. We're so busy today in this life and this world. We pray you would watch over us and protect us, be with those that are wearing a badge uniform, those who first responders, just be with them and keep them safe. We're thankful for our county and those our employees. We pray you would watch over them. We pray for direction as we make decisions. Ask for wisdom that we might please you in all we do. We pray in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good afternoon. If everyone's had a chance to review the minutes and there are no moves, changes, or alterations, I would accept the motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
3-0. All right, we have payroll totaling $255,871.58 and claims totaling $1,230,341.68.
Motion to accept financials.
Seconded.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
3-0. And we have the sheriff's numbers that we're going to present.
35 pretrial superior, 24 pretrial circuit, 15 F6, 12 for county sentenced, and 4 DOC, a total of 90.
Thank you.
What was it, 12 for? County sentence.
Yeah.
That was a new term.
Yeah, and a little different.
Good.
And highway update, please.
Good evening.
Hi, Sean.
Hey. I'd like to start with our mechanic that was injured. Has some progress going on. He took him out of sedation. We're right around a month now. He's not able to communicate yet, but he's blinking his eyes. He gave his wife a smile, so hopefully we're on the upswing of that. It was good. There's good news here today as we had a couple positives. She texts me daily, every other day, and today felt really good about that.
Fantastic.
Glad to hear. Thank you. Thank you.
Today we completed our chip seal program for 2022 at 76.2 miles. We still have some radiuses to go back and touch up. The chipper can't reach the radiuses, so we will be continuing to do that. Tomorrow we will start our ditch line mowing. It takes approximately 2 to 3 weeks to complete the county. We are going to go back to our 2021 road conversion that we started and was unable to complete for circumstances out of our control with power company and a building in our right-of-way. That'll be the 800 East and Oblique Road near Veracruz. We are going to try to work diligently on that and then also start our 2022 road conversion this year.
Good deal.
We have had, Nate was organizing this with the signs. The state come up with a new requirement for load limits on bridges. So we have a substantial amount of signs to replace and put up and post. So I'll get a two-man crew started on that tomorrow. So you'll be seeing them change load limit signs on bridges.
Can we see a picture of those signs too?
I do not have it with me. I can send you one.
That'd be perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
We do have them purchased and all in the shop ready to go up. So, and there was a deadline to it. I don't think we have time to meet that deadline, but need some discussion with them. And as long as we have progress moving, then we'll be good. And
Okay.
they'll excuse it.
Perfect.
We're also getting a lot of trees and larger weeds around bridge decks, and we're getting soils and stone on bridge decks that hold water that deteriorate the bridge quicker. So I'm putting together a couple-man crew to go out and start cleaning these bridge decks and getting these trees away from the structure so they don't cause damage. So you've seen us work around the bridges a little bit. We started with one. I kind of went out and was cleaning them up myself as they were chipping to stay with them and do that, and we've had some positive feedback from that. And I don't even know if people realize that it's going to help maintain the bridges too, so they just like the appearance of it even. One was a complaint on 9 South that you could not see around the corner. Well, I went out there and drove it, and you would have to drive literally almost into both lanes before you could see traffic. So cleaning those up, people really appreciate the line of sight.
Yeah.
And then with that being said, we still have several intersections out there with corn blocking line of sight. And I'm asking the farmers to cut that back so we don't have to use our resources to do so. And they can do it the way they like it and help us keep our roadways safe.
Have you notified any of them?
No, I do not have direct contact with them, but.
The best way is the newsman to pick up on that and run it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had a couple incidents south of town on 200 last year, and we had that addressed, but even on 300 North and Tealy, that's really touchy.
Yeah.
200 and Tealy, that's touchy, so.
I can provide a list of some of the locations. I just know
That'd be
last year
perfect.
when we got into it and I started mentioning it, many of them was taken care of, so I figured that's
Right.
It's a lot easier for me to spend 10 minutes talking about it than me spending hours finding it.
Yeah, if you could share that right there, I think that would be great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to get an approval for a special circumstance. Last November, I had ordered a truck, and I thought we were going to have it by now. Went out and did the bid process, got the quotes, chose the best possible price. Well, Ford has canceled their production. So, and I'd ordered a service body for it that's been sitting on the ground for months waiting on the truck and chassis. So I reached out to National Auto Fleet. It's a Sourcewell contract for government purchasing. Ford, Dodge, and Chevy doesn't offer the truck I'm asking for. Are not even accepting orders for 2023. They weren't accepting them. Dodge wasn't accepting them last year in November when I did the Ford. And nobody can supply me with one. They're rumored to be a 20% price increase of what I originally got it quoted for. And I found one on the ground that fits our perfect specification. So I was just asking for approval for a special circumstance to be able to purchase this vehicle. It is just over our $50,000 threshold.
Where is it at?
Valley Ford in Ohio,
And what's the price on it?
$61,000. And
Yeah, you brought this up to me, and I know other counties are just saying, do it.
Yeah.
$61,521.
I would make that motion, grant that approval.
How much was the bid on the original one last?
The original was at
41.
$40,778, but that had less options than this one that's already built. I was going cheaper with it. And then also if we did on that number, if it happens to be a 20% price increase, that's gonna put that same truck at $48,933 this year, and we wouldn't get it for 8 months if they didn't cancel our order again.
And that's less of a truck.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I may.
It's potentially a $12,587 increase of what we originally planned on.
I talked to Sean quite a bit about this today and over the last week or so. There are purchasing statutes. The threshold for a small purchase, which can be done without submitting requests for proposals, is $50,000. However, we do have a special exception in the code that allows for purchase and under unique circumstances or substantial cost savings to the county. I think it needs to be in the minutes that that's a part of this in case there was an audit later on. It's just above that threshold. Normally, anything over $50,000 will require 3 bids be sent out, given 7 days. Sean's already talked to 3 people about this, but in talking to him, I believe that the circumstance that you're talking about, this is the truck that you need, you have it available, the other trucks aren't available, and the price is only going to go up significantly if we wait on this. I talked to him, and I don't have a problem with it being considered a special exception to that rule, a special purchase. And what I'll do is Sean will write a letter explaining all that, and we'll keep that in our file in case the State Board of Accounts has any questions. So I wanted to alert you all to that we believe we covered our base on this.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there a second on that motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
3-0.
All right, well, we'll end with an update with Connor for the highway garage.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Short update today. We are out for bid, and we will be receiving bids publicly in this room at 4 o'clock on Thursday.
Okay, and what's the first? That's a,
All right, 4
Fourth.
p.m.
all right. 4 o'clock?
Yep.
Yep.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Thank you. Any questions?
Nope.
Don't
Have a
have
good
any.
evening. I have another appointment, so I'm gonna run out. I'm not gonna take the whole meeting.
Very
Good
good.
evening.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, sir. All right, Nate could not be here today, so I have his notes. There is a request for authorization to allow the Commissioner President to sign the LPA with NDOT agreement for CE inspection services phase of this project. Phase will include grant funds once construction begins. See, Nate started the agreement phase with NDOT early on this project to get ahead of the 2024 project. So I think we would need a motion to allow that
I'll
signature.
make that motion. Allow the Commissioner President to sign.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Hey,
3-0. Application for the first mile of County Road 450 was submitted to NDOT last week. Nate doesn't expect to hear back from NDOT until late this year with the project selection. The Uniondale Volunteer Fire Department Drought Study, he submitted a copy of the report developed with Jason Bourne last week, and he is going to submit the report for approval. Bridge and Transportation Asset Management Plans 2022, he'll be working on and has submitted the 2022 TAMP and BAMP later this summer. He'll be working on both of these here in August, and he hopes to submit them to LTAP for review and approval. The PACER rating is already complete, so editing the spreadsheets for submittal is a key factor. Local tracks on Adams Street, Hoosier Highway. He's received 2 responses out of 13 surveys mailed out. At this point, one asked to keep the whole road the same as Old Hoosier Highway, while the other asked to use Clark Street extended on the north and Old Hoosier Highway on the south section. The preference would be the latter recommendation, since it keeps the 2 road sections distinct for clarity and with dispatch. If we're okay with this response, he was going to send us the DLZ along with the project plan preparation. What is that going to require from us here?
I mean, did he give you a document for us to sign or a letter recommendation? Pre-formed or anything?
Well, we can revisit that if we need to then.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I'm fine with him keeping
me
it
too.
two separate.
Then rights-of-way dedication.
I have 6.
I'll make a motion to accept the right-of-way dedications.
Favor aye?
Aye.
3-0. That will take us to Mr. Evans.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
For the record, my name is Karen Evans. I'm a senior development engineer with Amoresco.
Cool.
I have with me tonight
Thank you.
Dan Nemeth, who's giving his card down, who's our project manager. Brad Driver, who you might recognize, he and I both worked on this project. It's been a couple years ago now when we were in development, right before COVID came to visit us also. So we wanted to come tonight, just give you an update on where things stand with construction, as well as just maybe a refresher reminder of, what got us to this point and how we got here. And I apologize, I noticed when I started looking at it, when I got here in the print house, that we got to do some page flipping. I think somebody printed these, they were flipping on the wrong side of the page. But the pictures are right, just got,
I printed them wrong.
it's got a little bit, you'll just have to exercise a little bit, going through the pages. So with that, I'll get started. The scope, as you guys are probably familiar with, is focused at the jail. Originally, we had also looked at some items at the courthouse. But as the project evolved over about a year and a half of development, we focused in on the items that you see there on the second page, call them ECMs. It's short for energy conservation measures, but you can just call it a measure. But as you see, lighting retrofit, parking lot lighting, HVAC upgrades, the control replacement, roof replacement. Those were all projects that we had looked at originally in terms of energy efficiency and through a guaranteed energy savings contract through the state of Indiana that Amoresco was selected. To refresh my memory, Brad, when was it? We were selected on an RFQ, probably 2019.
We were selected in 2020.
Okay, 2020. And then the remodel and addition work came around as the sheriff had talked with DLZ, and there was some concern about, again, this is coming up during COVID, with intake and being able to isolate inmates as they come in. The intake area is really small, and we're not able to do a lot of the things that they needed to do. There's a page in here later on that kind of shows our expansion and the work that's going on in there. So that was, as time evolved, we decided to sort of meld these projects into one and be able to accomplish all this at one time. A pretty substantial upgrade for the jail. The domestic hot water was a leak issue that we identified early on, and been able to dramatically reduce the amount of hot water that's being produced with the leak pipe, and that was draining down in the sumps down under the building.
Buried under concrete.
And so we saw cut that and fix that. The water upgrade is conservation measures specifically for the inmates in the cells and being able to control how many times they can flush and the volumes of flushing. And then finally, the last measure here was a parking lot replacement and reconfiguration so that the primary thing was letting deliveries get in and out smoothly, as well as letting the fire engine be able to get in and out of the parking lot without having to do they call in my house the Austin Powers, where you have to shuffle that thing around about 16 times. So those are the measures. The pictures kind of speak for themselves. We've done some upgrades. Dan will be able to give you a lot more of an update as far as where things stand currently. Really, like I said, the picture's worth 1,000 words. We've been in there now for quite a few months, and actually working on getting close to 70. So, but as you see, if you look on page it's page 7, that has the floor plan that shows kind of the before and after, the red color or the pink color there being the layout before, and the blue being the areas that we've upgraded and are doing some significant general construction improvements in those areas to make the intake area larger and expand that, expand the Sally Port to the south, be able to utilize the conference room space, some of that storage area better, and then also the multi-purpose area that's within the inmate area, as well as the old visitation, be able to get some use out of those areas right now, because at the time, quite frankly, they were not being used for much of anything. So now the sheriff and his staff will be able to utilize those spaces. Again, just going through, Dan, I'll let you maybe give an update if you want to get down there to the schedule, which is on page 11. You can give an update perhaps as to where things are now.
So like I said, we're about, I need to get my drilling in for July and getting out, but I'm forecasting that to be just 71, 72% complete today. So the biggest challenge has been obviously coordinating significant new construction activity with the renovation work that's happening. We're at 70% and we're finishing the roofing. We'll finish this week. We've finished the lighting inside. We've finished a major portion of the mechanical renovation work that was inside, and the new construction outside is proceeding. The masonry is complete outside, and the poly jail work is commencing this week. Walls are up, and we're not finishing just yet, but that'll be very soon. Painting was done. lighting, et cetera. So right now, we're in a thought process of, starting the closeouts. We're looking at closing out each ECM one by one. So we're actually in the process of now starting, Brad's out here to start that closeout process. How do we commission these? What's the process? What checklist? What are the procedures we're going to use then to substantiate that the project's complete, meets spec, and
You have construction meetings tomorrow.
yeah, we have construction meetings every 2 weeks. We have subcontractor meetings every 2 weeks. We meet the sheriff and his team every 2 weeks. We've been since the project started. We document the entire project, pictures and everything. Follow-up documentation's been really good and thorough, and responses have been very good. Communication with all the subcontractors have been pretty good. So it's gotten us to a good spot where we're at right now.
So yeah, if you look there on page 11, that's just some high-level view. So this 55%, this is actually a printout from when we were going to meet in the beginning of July. So that number, that's why I wanted Dan to make sure he knew what our new percentage is. But we're currently on schedule. If you go to the last page, then it has a little budget update. I've already heard a couple folks mention earlier, budget pricing and cost issues. It's no secret or surprise that lots of things have gone up in price, especially since we were developing this job back in 2019 and 2020. Any of that has been Amoresco's responsibility that we've managed that. There's been some price escalation, certainly been some delays, and the delays have caused some cost, but that's been Amoresco's responsibility. I mentioned the domestic hot water fix. There's a good news and a good news, bad news. Bad news is it took us a little longer to get that done, a little more work than what we anticipated. But the good news was it was a pretty significant savings on the hot water side. And we had water that was getting down in the sumps. I don't know if you're familiar with, but where the inmates are in the two pod areas, those air handlers serve ductwork goes underground, and then it comes up in these chases to feed the individual cells. And there was water getting down in those sumps, and we were concerned about, one, where was that water coming from? Is it groundwater? Is it getting into the ductwork, leaking, rusting out the duct, air quality issues, things of that nature? Well, it was one sump, not the other. When we fixed this hot water leak, that was pretty much the culprit, because the water was crystal clear. So we were trying to figure out where this was coming from. And a good thing is that's been addressed. So it'll be some energy savings, but also water savings, and then take care of that issue with having that constant moisture down there.
When I first came up here in 2019 and started, and I met Junior, who was the maintenance supervisor at the jail, he had told me that had been leaking for several years. Several years he had had water down inside there. So that was really something that I really tried to really dig into, and really tried to work with the current maintenance supervisor, Bob, to really try to pinpoint where that problem was, and we were able to stop that leak down there. And Dan, I don't think they're having any water down in those sumps anymore, right?
Correct.
Into those pits, right? So, because that was air that was coming back through the return air system and the supply air system, so you could imagine.
High humidity levels.
Yeah, and it's like anything else. You do your best. We x-rayed the floor and got everything marked, and then promptly started to cut right through a conduit that didn't show up in the x-ray. So, we addressed that, took care of that, got the electric back into those two cells. But, that was a good thing that's been taken care of. There were some other issues that were just engineering, things that weren't shown on engineering plans. Therefore, when we got in the field, we identified that and took care of those. We did some wood nailers and things on the parapet walls. That's where I think some of the leak issues that have been happening in the past were on in these parapet areas. So we just did extra work for that roofing to make sure that we can avoid that. We also looked at structural scanning for the AHUs. So in the office area, the air handlers are up above the ceiling. With these new air handlers that we brought in, they don't necessarily match the same footprint. We couldn't necessarily hang them in the same spot. So we took care of if you've ever seen it, I don't know what the technical term is, but it's like a hand style concrete, or it's a preformed concrete, that slab and the beams are all part of the structure, and they bring the pieces in and well, there's reinforcing steel in all those
can't-
beams. You can't start just drilling anchors in there, so we brought the X-ray in, fortunately this time, it was good, and we didn't have any electric conduits. So we were able to do that, identify where those new,
Tells you exactly where to put the bolt pattern.
right, so, again, that was something that was an unforeseen, but again, that's Amoresco's responsibility, not the county's. So we did that. There is an allowance that the county has. It's at your discretion to use. That is the 109. Is that still
That's
a
still,
big number?
mhm,
Okay.
that's correct.
And that was because after we'd gotten under contract, we were able to identify that we did not need to do, we were able to get a variance for the fire protection system and sprinkler system. The building was originally built without one, and we factored in needing to add it in the areas that we were working in, but we worked with BLZ to be able to get that variance from the state that we did not need to add it for the small, relatively small footprint that we were working in. We did not need to add a sprinkler system just for that. So we used the money that we didn't have to spend on that and put that in an allowance. And there's been a couple items that we have done at the request of the sheriff, but there's still a considerable amount of that left if we were to need that. If we don't, then that will be returned to the county. That's
It was Elevatus that they worked with, not you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did say DLC, you're right, it's Elevatus, sorry. Correct, correct. We're working with Elevatus Architecture. I heard DLC earlier. So if there are any questions, we'd be happy to try and answer those and address anything. Like I said, you're always welcome to visit the site, see how things are going. And we'll be back.
I've been out to it and everything, and just, if you foresee any more or any surprises in your last 28%, do you see anything happening before you wrap it up? Let us know and keep us aware of what's going on, and just.
Does that 109 come back to the county if we don't spend it?
Correct.
What about the other allowance that was in there, that 274? Mark said there was some of that left over?
That was what we were internally discussing, if there was any sizable amount of that left. That's what we're using to, quite frankly, take care of a lot of these price escalations and material escalations and the delays. That's what we're burning through at this moment, so.
Which is actually the county money, not Amoresco money, right?
It's our allowance, so it's baked in there.
So basically, the county paid for all the overruns.
You said that's price up. You said price upgrades, what was the other thing?
Just the delay, the delay factor. We're out here on the job a lot longer. Dan has the other been here every week, or our other superintendent, Brett. It's been one of the two here, week in, week out, so. And we anticipate by the end of the year, it
Yes.
should be done.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah.
The last thing will be the parking lot, because we didn't want to do that. and then
Right.
miss some other delivery or
That'll
something.
be the absolute last thing.
Is there any grass seeding that needs to be done for the project?
There is, yes. Near where the Sally Port area is at.
Okay.
There were some grass seeds.
As long as we do that in September, we'll be good. Nope, I'm good.
Gentlemen?
Thanks, Bill. We'll be back for this presentation tomorrow night.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm gonna move Jared up to the top about this tile thing. We can,
Yeah,
but
let's
it's
do
up to you.
that. Jared? Let's kind of skip you up here.
If you had any questions since we last talked about it, but,
That's been a long time ago, like 40 minutes ago.
as we talked about drainage board, the damages that would be paid, crop damage that would be paid, that would come out of the 301 relinquishment fund.
Yes.
We believe that, I think you guys approved 115 or 110,000 The bid price on the tile project was 97 and some change. I think you guys.
We gave a not to exceed number.
Not to exceed.
I don't know what.
110.
110.
It's in our minutes.
I believe that could come out of that
Right.
110, and I think we'll still be okay with the connections and everything else. I don't think we will exceed that price, but I wanted to get approval so that they could draw from that fund.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Seconded.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
3-0.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Colin, we need to discuss some ordinances concerning amending GIS fees and body camera fee ordinance. Is that correct?
Yes, it's true. I sent this out. Our ordinance on GIS fees goes back about 13 years, and the law requires that GIS fees be separated out and not put into the general fund. Basically, when somebody makes a request of the GIS program, they can get these data layers and data boxes, I'll call them, and that allows them to use that data. We make it available, but our ordinance did not have it going into the fund that the statute requires, and so all I did is amended that ordinance, and we created a new bucket, we'll call it, called the Electronic Map Generation Fund, and that is the name that the statute requires us to have. So all we're doing is just cleaning that up.
Perfect.
Make a motion to accept that.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
0.
Is that an ordinance, did you say?
Yes.
That would be ordinance 2022-17.
2022-17.
Okay, if I may.
Please.
The Sheriff's Department is using body cameras now, and there's a statute specifically allowing that and providing for public access to those videos. The Sheriff's Department is allowed to charge a fee for these, but that fee is strictly stated by the statute, and so I've crafted an ordinance. I've run it by Scott Holliday, and basically if somebody requests a copy of a video and it's 30 minutes or less, it'll cost somebody $50. That covers the time and attention that's needed. You know, these aren't just copying videos. Sometimes there's redaction that is required, blurring out faces of minors, that sort of thing. So it can be pretty labor intensive. Between 30 and 60 minutes, the cost is $100. Anything over 60 minutes is $150, and $150 is the maximum that the statute allows. We modeled this after the Indianapolis Police Department, as well as Stark County just put this in place, and it restates the statute and will allow Scott to charge those fees. Just like with the other matter, this does not go into the general fund. It'll go into a fund. The fees generated go into upgrading software, training, that sort of thing. And so we're creating a new fund for that as well.
So if a request comes through, that's for only one camera, one officer's camera, or is that 3 officers at a scene,
Well,
3 separate cameras?
that's a really good question. In the ordinance, there are some statements about how those requests come in. There needs to be some specificity. Someone can't just say, I want all law enforcement video from August 1st, 2022. They have to have specificity. There's different ways of getting that specificity, and but they have a right to this information, and so long as they're specific enough so that Scott can identify what videos they're asking for.
But we can't say, we'll charge you 3 times $50 for the 30 minutes on Officer X, Officer Y, Officer Z.
I think the total amount of time expended in complying with that request would be aggregated, and then
That would be the charge.
It just boils down to time on the video that is cut, edited, and turned over to fulfill that request.
correct.
That's the 50, 100, and 150.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a motion to carry this through?
Seconded.
Or do we have a motion?
Oh, I thought he did motion.
I didn't
Doesn't
motion
hurt,
it.
no.
You just had a question?
I'm just, I mean, I just seen it this afternoon, so,
I was with Scott Friday, and talked about it.
okay. I mean, I like the idea, I think, I don't have any issue, but I just, like I said, I just seen it today, so. A lot of times I normally see something longer than an hour and a half, so.
We can wait and have time to review it till next meeting. That way, I spent some time with Scott talking about it on Thursday before.
Its spirit, though, is to allow the public a
And
pathway to gain
I have no
that.
issue with that
Right.
whatsoever.
Yeah, right. But am I correct in that?
Yeah, there's
To educate
already,
myself.
they already have access to it by a public records request.
Right.
And in a law enforcement capacity, that can get tricky because there could be open investigations. The problem that Scott has right now is that he has to eat that entire cost, and the state allows us to charge for it. So that's why we would do
Okay,
this.
so right now, in the absence of this ordinance, we cannot charge, or he cannot charge for that time and that retrieval, and then that, accepting that request.
Yeah, he needs an ordinance authorized.
Okay, I
The
understand.
request and having to be specific is already in there.
Yeah, it has to be in writing.
Charge for it.
Right, exactly.
So the time spent going after
Right, so,
it. I had to get clarification, that's why we spent time.
I don't have any issue with that, the way you described it. And I mean, at any time, if we have to say, we're not getting enough revenue back, or we're spending way too much time doing that compensation, we can adjust it.
I think it prevents people from just doing it
Yeah,
for the sake of doing it.
exactly, agreed,
Have some charges.
Okay.
exactly, so.
And those questions are just for my own edification.
All right, so you motion?
Yeah, I'll make the
I will
motion that
second.
we approve it for the fee as written by Colin going forward.
If we have to adjust it, we'll adjust it, but I'm okay with it.
All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
3-0.
That is 2022-18.
18. Perfect. Anything else on that, Colin?
I believe that takes care of my end of that.
Reports?
We have a 9-1 consolidation on there. Any discussion on that?
Really, nothing has changed on that. We're still status quo. I think most of the elected officials that have seen the agreement are in agreement and like it. I think that right now we're still waiting on it to pass through city's legal mechanism. Is that an accurate statement, you feel, Colin? Okay. So that's where we're at right now. Still waiting on it to pass those obstacles. And then Peterborough. There's some discussion we wanted to have on that. Brandon, I think you wanted to present something, is that correct? Yeah, come on up, please.
Now are we on? What's that?
You turned it off.
I turned it off?
Now it's off, right?
Up is on, down is
On, yeah. Okay. All right. My name is Brandon Harnish. In January, I'll sit on the county council. I want to thank the county commission for taking the time to review the Peterborough policy I've drafted. I've talked with our county attorney, property tax professionals, taxpayers, and elected officials, both local and state, about this policy, and there's optimism that it will bring needed accountability to the Peterborough appeals process. Over the last 6 months, this commission has demonstrated strong Republican leadership in this regard with their 2 Peterborough appointments. The goal of this policy is to build on this work and to secure it in writing for the taxpayer. This policy produces several important outcomes. It protects the due process rights of taxpayers. It promotes government accountability. It informs the taxpayer of their rights. And it helps ensure Peterborough compliance with DLGF guidelines and Indiana State Code. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
One question I didn't ask you before, Brandon, but I was curious about. This, in fact, only outlines the current law, right, dictating these policies, or no?
Essentially, that's what Sections 3 and 4 achieve, is really a restatement of the DLGF policy guidelines, and then Section 4 would essentially restate what the Indiana State Code already says, but it's in one location as opposed to spread throughout the state code. And this also helps educate the Peterborough, and it helps educate taxpayers and other officials.
Had a chance to read.
I sent, so there've been a,
At 2 o'clock today, so I
okay.
haven't.
There've been a number of revised copies. The latest one, I did speak with Colin. We decided to strike really what you might consider the teeth of the ordinance, because we determined it would be redundant with the ordinance that was already passed this year. There's no reason to create a removal process twice. So effectively, what this has become is more of a resolution. And it really piggybacks on the ordinance that's already been passed and gives it some specificity. So really, what does the commission expect of its Peterborough? What are the processes and due process protocols in place that you want to see? And like I mentioned, I spoke with tax representative about this. He loved it. He's argued in front of Peterboroughs before, really thought that this was an appropriate direction to take. This was really born of a situation down in Blackford County where and I actually have the court case in front of me, the Peterborough there essentially rubber stamped a golf course assessment. And you can see on this, golf course assessments are statutorily determined. There's no leeway in how you assess a golf course. Well, down in Blackford County, the assessor ran afoul of the law, and the Peterborough rubber stamped it. And I wound up speaking with the golf course owner, and he was very supportive of a policy like this. The IBTR actually used the term blatant to describe the assessment down in Blackford County. It said they blatantly failed to value the golf course in accordance with Indiana code. That kind of language spoke very loudly to me that maybe some additional, something in writing would be appropriate.
This only applies to the 2 appointees from the commission, not the one from the county council.
That's correct, yeah. This would apply specifically to the commission's appointees. I spoke with Council President Steve Huggins about this. We discussed potentially holding off on the council side until January, when I'm on council, to push this through. Not that it's a real controversial policy. Again, it's a resolution. There's no real teeth to it without the removal ordinance that has already been passed. So, see, the vibe I got, and I don't want to really speak for Steve, but it would be okay to wait until January. Just once I'm on council, it seems like a natural thing to do.
If we are talking about a resolution, then what I would like to do is allow Commissioner Gerber and Commissioner Stringer a little more time to look at that. And then also, if we're going to do a resolution, maybe even put some of our own thoughts into that also, maybe some additional verbiage to give direction there to our 2 appointees. But I'd be very curious as to council's position on this and what they're willing to do, or maybe even add into their own, because I think it'd be 2 different options, is what I would.
Yeah, whatever the commission passes, that will be identical to what I bring before council, if in fact council decides to wait. But I think that would be the strongest solution. That would make the most sense, that whatever council, whatever commission passes, they're identical.
Okay.
And as far as giving you guys the opportunity to put your own input in there, take a look at it a little bit longer, I don't have a problem with that at all. This is obviously, you're the ones that need to pass this, if in fact that's what you want to do. I would just note that the Peterborough season begins on August 8th. And I specifically sought this time in order to sort of put the policy in place prior to the Peterborough season. But if it doesn't work out that way, it doesn't work out that way.
I would like to see the other members of the commission be very comfortable with that and understand it inside and out.
For sure.
Are you saying that this thing is now in final draft form?
It's, now that I've struck the removal process, which, like I mentioned, turned out
Have it
to be
now.
redundant. Yeah, it's in final form as far as I'm concerned.
If I could get a revised copy of that, I'd appreciate it too.
Yeah, I do have one for you.
I think the stance we've taken on the Peterborough just in the last few months, 6 months.
Just from, since the first of the year.
Yeah.
Put 2 appointees on there, put some strong language in about how to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure there's cause and why to do it, but to make sure that taxpayer is the one that's represented by the Peterborough or not. I guess that's.
Yeah, and that's, like I mentioned in my introduction, this really builds on the work that the commission has already, all the groundwork you guys have laid. And I think good government requires culture, and it also requires something in writing. And you guys have handled the culture aspect of it. Now I'm just looking to put something in writing. All right?
I appreciate it, Brandon.
Any other questions, just let me know. I'll hand this stuff over to you.
Thank you very much. Taking the time to do that.
For sure. This is the golf course case that really got me thinking about writing this.
You can send that to me, let me know, I appreciate that. Sure will, thank you.
It's what I read.
Thank you, sir. Anything else, Colin?
Thank you.
I had a question.
Please.
On that body camera fee ordinance, is that for the public or is that for government entities to access those cameras? Or could the public access that by paying that fee?
It's the public too.
So who would you talk to on going about doing that? Would you go to the sheriff's department for that or? who would you talk to
For a
about
request,
doing that?
would it not?
I'm sure the sheriff will put together a form that can be, where that request can be made. You can make that request in writing. I would, since the sheriff is an elected official, I would go straight to the sheriff. If it was Sheriff Video or Ossian Police Department, or whatever it is, in the meantime, because he's the one that holds it, so he would be the one doing the work.
Perfect. And when did the Wells County Sheriff Department start wearing body cameras and start videoing? Do you know how recent that's been? Kurt, do you know?
You're not looking at me?
You're wearing a uniform. You're the one dressed in the wearing one right now.
I don't know the exact month. It was started, I'm the school resource officer at Morrill, and I know I was wearing it in school last year. So I'm gonna guess maybe April-ish.
Okay, cool.
But I really honestly don't remember.
Okay, so it's been a while.
It's been a little bit, yeah, cool.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Anything here? No? Okay. With that, we will adjourn.
We're finished.
Okay.